Okay, so this week we are going to be beginning our Smarter Balance test. Does anyone know which day that starts?
Friday.
Not Friday. It starts on Wednesday. So you'll come in after a late start, and then we'll have our first day of testing. I know that we've been doing a lot of testing recently. We just finished our R skills, and we're still working on our constructed responses. And then we're going to be beginning our Smarter Balance test really soon. The real Smarter Balance test, yes. The real thing. You guys will be just fine. Something that we need to do first is we need to discuss proper procedures for taking a test. So we've done this before. We did it with our R skills. We talked about what you should do when you take a test. So what you're going to do first is I want everyone to, on their warm-up, you're going to write procedures for test taking. And then I want you to independently come up with steps that you take when you go to take a test. And those could be for you personally. What do you do to ensure that you do the best you can on a test? Go ahead and write that on your warm-up. Remember, these are your personal steps. So it doesn't have to be exactly what everybody does or what everyone should do. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to have you share with the person sitting next to you the things that you wrote down. So you're going to see the things that they have on their list, and then you're going to see if you want to add any of those to yours. Because you want to have a full list with multiple things that you should do before you take a test. So the person that you share a table with, so that would mean Arvin and Kimberly, Isaiah and Colton, Selena and Sinai, who you share a table with. Over here we have 2 and 2. And we're going to have Michael go over here and share with Anatoly. So go ahead and talk to the person next to you and share the ideas that you have.
Okay, so I did read it, read it, forget it, read the questions, so that's what I did. That's what I did. Read it, read it.
Thank you. No, not yet. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, wrap up your conversations. You should stop talking. Bring your attention up here. Gentlemen in the back, you need to let go of one another.
Stop! He was touching my shirt.
Right. Stop talking. Ruben, this is off. We are going to make a list together. So can someone share with me the first thing they do when they go to take a test? What is the first thing you do? Nayeli?
Sleep.
Find helpful words and sentences.
Fine. So that's definitely something. What is the first thing you need to do when you see a test, though? What do we do?
Read the question.
Read the question. So you could have read the questions or read the passage. So you probably read the passage and then you can read the questions. You definitely just read all the information that you have on the page, right? And then we could go back to what Nayeli mentioned, which was, can you say it one more time, Nayeli? Find helpful words and sentences. Sentences. Very good. Any other steps that people take when they take a test? Vlad?
Read the passage first and then the questions because
Okay. So yeah, very true. That is true. What do you do? What about once you read the passage once?
Reread it.
Do you reread the passage? That's a very helpful way to go through. So we'll have reread. And you might reread both. You might reread the passage and then reread the questions as well, because you weren't really sure what the question was asking you to do. It's really important to read the directions, because on the Smarter Balance test, you have a lot of different types of questions that ask you to find the best answer, to select 2 answers. It's really important to read all the directions. Anatoly, something else.
Highlight important details.
Highlight important details. Very good. Highlight details. And that was something that we talked about last week, right? On Friday, you talked about the different tools that you had in the Smarter Balance test, and you can highlight details. That's definitely something you can do. what was that thing that we did as you went through the reading about Tanya where we separated parts?
Chunky.
We could chunk, right? So if you were reading a passage on the Smarter Balance test and you wanted to look at the first few paragraphs, you could chunk that and just read that and focus on that for a minute. And then you could go to a different set of paragraphs. It's really important to separate things out so it's not kind of overwhelming when you have the whole piece in front of you. Are there any other test-taking procedures anyone else takes in here they wanted to share? If you get stuck, skip it. I don't know if you can actually skip questions on the Smarter Balance test. So we'll put flag a question for review.
Perfect.
So maybe you put an answer, you're not entirely sure, but you flag it so you can come back and look at it again and make sure that you got it right. Batula, do you have a question? Okay, go ahead.
If you're doing that the writing one,
Okay.
maybe you should write on paper.
Write it on paper first. So how about we'll say on the Smarter Balance test you actually have a little notepad that you have in the test. And you can put notes in there instead of actually writing things down. So we'll put use your tools and resources. And that'll include a lot of different things. So that will include your highlighter tool. That'll include the strike-through tool. That'll include the notepad. It'll include all those tools. And we're actually going to go over those one more time today. And then tomorrow we'll actually be sitting down with the Chromebooks and doing a practice test so we can get really familiar with how the test is, how it works on the computer. Tomorrow, yeah. So go ahead and put your warm-ups away. I'm going to pull up something on the screen. So obviously we're talking about the Smarter Balance test. Today is the 9th. But what day are we actually taking the test? Wednesday, the 11th, yes. Okay. So this is the test layout. And this is what when you go into the Chromebooks tomorrow and you're actually looking at it, you'll see this. I know you might have seen this already. And because we're in Read 180, and we do our skills tests and SRI tests and just our regular Read 180 work, we're probably more prepared to actually take these tests on the computer than a lot of the other classes. Because they don't do as much testing on computers like we do. So we'll see that we have our back and next to look at the question prior to go to the next one. You have a drop-down menu where you can click on the other questions. You can pause the test, end the test. You have a context menu. You click on that. That'll open up your notepad and a couple of your other tools. You'll have your zoom in, zoom out. This is a screenshot from a math one, so it has calculator up there. Obviously, you won't have a calculator for the English questions. You won't need one. We have a dictionary is one of the tools that you can use. So you have a dictionary use. So let's say you're reading a passage writing test. And let's say you need to use the dictionary to look something up. You have that capability. On the practice test, we won't have access to all the same tools, but you will have them when you're actually taking the Smarter Balance test. You will have access to a lot of these tools and you will see them. So obviously you use a dictionary to look up a word that you were unsure of, right? You can expand the text, just like we do in our SRI test. Sometimes it's too small. Maybe you want to just read the passage and you don't even want to be tempted to see the questions. You can just expand it and it'll fill up the whole screen so you just see the passage. You don't even have to look at the question. It's also a good way if you're having a hard time reading it small like this, you can look at it in a full screen view. So this next picture just has the expanded view. Masking. Does anyone remember when we went and we did an SRI test in the library and we gave you sticky notes if you wanted them to cover up the questions? I know some people asked for that. And we did that because when you're looking at the question, like Batula shared earlier, you might not actually be finding all the information because you only focused on that question. So the masking tool allows you click on it, and it allows you to just cover up the entire question by blocking it out like this. So you have that capability of just focusing on the reading and getting rid of the actual question or whatever's distracting to you. Vlad, you have a question?
Can you do the same thing on the passage?
On the passage, I believe so, yeah. But I don't know if you would need to. But possibly, yeah. Maybe that will work better for you. We have our other tools that we talked about last week. So you have your highlighter tool. You have your strike-through tool. Maybe for the strike-through, you're working on a multiple choice question, and you're not really sure, but you can eliminate some of the ones you definitely know it's not. Maybe use the strike-through tool on those ones that you know it's not. So it makes it easier. You're getting rid of possible answers that are definitely wrong to help you get closer to selecting the right answer. And obviously you can highlight specific words and sections that you find important that'll help you out. So today in small group, what you'll be doing is I found a couple articles from the Tween Tribune that you're going to be reading. You're going to read one. You have a choice of one or a different one. And then you're going to have a couple questions that are just like Smarter Balance questions, where they ask you to find the best answer, which means each answer could be right, but you have to find the best one, or the most likely one. Or you might have to select 2 possible answers out of 5. So it's a multiple choice question, but you have to select 2. Or you're going to have to find a text that relates to the main idea. So these are going to be questions that are just like the questions you see on the Smarter Balance test, but you'll have a choice of the article that you read. So one article is related to, that I found on the Tween Tribune, was related to this dress thing that was a really big popular thing on the internet. You don't have to read that one if you don't care. But this was a big thing that happened like a week ago or so, that some people see this dress as black and blue, and some people see it as white and gold. You don't have to read it. And when you read the article, it'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if you read the article, it will tell you what the actual color of the dress is. It will tell you why some people see it differently than other people. And then we have another one that's related to the science. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not talking about the dress right now. I'll give you a second to do that in small group, but not right now. And then there's an article that talks about the science behind NASCAR. So it's talking about like the science behind how we see, and then the science behind cars and racing. So when you break up into your group, you'll select one of these articles, and then you'll have to complete questions. This will be like the Smarter Balance test, that we're actually going to work silently on this activity. So it's going to mimic how the test is. It'll be like the test actually is. So we're going to go ahead and start our first rotation.